Okay, so this class we're going to talk about, or we're going to take the video. Let me share my screen here. We're going to take that video that I'm sorry, the Jupyter notebook that we had in the that's in for tonight's lesson, and we're going to take it and we're going to develop the attributes and the methods and whatnot for this application for the random walk application. So if this, I believe this is everything that's in the video. I'm sorry, in the Jupyter Notebook, except for I changed like the positive capital deltas and whatnot to underscores. So you can work on that if you really like. I think this would still work even if you don't need to do that. So I'm going to let R equal random walk P, P would be 0. I think it's 492929. And then we'll start at 100. Enter, and then we'll R dot step. I don't know. Let's take 10 steps at 5 and -5, and then print R, just to make sure it's kind of doing what it's supposed to do. So we start at 100, we lose 5, we get 95. We lose 5 more, we're at 90. We gain 5, we're at 95. Okay, so it looks like it's sort of doing its random walk business the way that we want it to do. And then, so remember that's what str does. So str prints off all of the values. That's what I wanted, so that we were able to sort of validate the running walk is doing, or the random walk is doing what we wanted to do. With with the actual locations, with the time period, and so on and so forth. So now what I want to do is start programming some of the other. Well, let's make sure that str. I'm sorry, the repr does what it's supposed to do. It gives us the time, which would be the 11, right? Because it's 0 through 11 or 10. There'd be the 11th one would be 90. Maybe we change that to 10, 90. Because yeah, I think that's what we'll do. So let me go up here to RPR. Yeah, I don't like that. So -1. Enter, shift enter, shift enter, shift enter, and shift enter. All right, that's what I like that a little bit better, because that is the 10th one, should be the 120th, and so on and so forth. Okay. So I think we have all of the. So let's just see. R.P 4 point. So that makes sense. R.loc. All right, so that's doing what I wanted to do. R.delta is zeros and I'm sorry, the 5s and -5s. Current step is time, so R dot time is 10, and then starting location, so R dot, let me see what I call it up here, start loc. Start loc. Okay, so we have all of the attributes in there, all of the things that we said we were going to have. And remember, you have to do that, or you don't have to do all of them in the constructor method, but that's generally where we want to do that stuff. And so the constructor method, all that's done. So let's do restart. So I'm just going to go back up in here, and I'm going to type in the new code that I wanted to have. So def restart. Right? I don't think I need anything except for self. And then I'm just going to say self dot loc. Loc is equal to numpy array. I think it should be exactly the same thing that we have up here. Maybe it's instead of loc, it's start loc. So start underscore loc. It should probably be self dot, right? Self dot start loc. Start location, comma reshape, and then we want it to be one row with a bunch of columns. So we got that going for us, and then we want to self. So we want to recreate or talk about this. So our delta. So we want to restart that, I should say. Self.time is going to be 0. I want that greater than. So this GTO stuff is all about how long you're above whatever your starting location was, and LTO is like how long you were below that, right? I think it was greater than 0 is what I was going for, but really it's all about how long you were above the starting location. So I want that to be equal to 0, and self.lto. I think that's we need, and we don't really need to return anything, so I'm just going to return none. So I'm just going to, when you hit restart, that's just going to restart your stuff. So then check 0 should be def check _0, bring in self, and then all you're doing there is checking to make sure that the last value and location, so self.location -1, is it equal to, or we can say less than or equal to, less than or equal to 0, because that's the number that I'm talking about there, right? So self dot, is it less than or equal to 0? Just in case it sort of has a decimal or something. That's the only reason I'm doing the less than or equal to. Really, I should probably be checking to see if it's equal to 0, but I'm not. I'm gonna just make sure that it always works, right? So that's the idea behind that one. And then I'm gonna come over here and do length. So def self, not self, __ len __, then do self, right? And then I'm gonna return one of two things. I think self.time will give us the length. I don't know, we can check that later. Then I'm going to do this thing called run 0. And all run 0 is going to do, if you remember, run 0, it runs until we reach a 0, right? So it's run until 0 is reached. So you can probably figure out that I'm going to have this check 0 in some kind of while loop. So run 0, I'm going to pass in self, I'm going to pass in positive delta, I'm going to pass in negative delta just in case they're different. And I'm going to restart. So I'm hitting this thing and I'm restarting this bad boy. And then while not, let's see, self check 0, right? So that's that guy. I'm running it. It's going to be a true or false. If it's true, if I'm at 0, then I want to stop, right? So that's what's going to happen there. If it's false, then I want the not's going to do the false and make it true, and it's going to keep running. Okay. And then all I'm going to do is take a step. I'm going to take one step at a time, and I'm going to pass in positive delta and negative delta right into it. And then return two things. I'm going to return self.time and self.max. So I'm gonna just tell you the largest thing that you got to, and then how long it took you to get to 0. So again, remember what we're doing. I'm gonna run this thing until you get to 0, and then all I'm reporting out is, well, I actually reached a certain level, and we can sort of report that out too if we're really interested in it. Okay, let's see, then we're check 0, so restart, check 0, length, run 0, call. So I'm going to do the call, so def __ call self, and then we're just going to return, I don't think we're using this really, I just wanted to add functionality. So we're just returning the very last location if you do that. Let's see, run until, let's do a run until, so def run until self, I'm going to put a stop value in. So this will look a lot like run 0, except I got two places I want to stop. Positive delta, negative delta, right? So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep running my, let's see, run 0. So run 0 runs until you reach a 0. This one, however, we want to do, so we'll do self.restart. Thing that we do, and then so our while loop will look a lot like it did above. Self.check _0, right? And or it probably should be an or. So there's two reasons why I want to stop this thing. One of them is if this is true, if I'm true here, then there'll be a false and it'll get out of there. I think both of them have to be, yeah, so it's an and. So this has to be true, and self dot location -1 is not equal to stop value. Let me think of this. Let me just think about this for a second before we go. So while this whole thing is true, we're going to run this. So when would I want to stop? When one of these is false, and that's why that has to be an and. So if this is false, then that will cause this thing not to run. Because if I had an or here, it would always run, right? So both of these can't be true at the same time. You can't be at a 0 and you can't be stop value. What happens if your stop value is not? I need to do the greater than. That's what I need. Yeah, because what happens is your stop value could get away from you if you just have a in there where it doesn't add up to the exact stop value. So if you're greater than your stop value, then stop, and if you're less than the check value. Okay, yeah, I think this makes sense. And we'll run it, make sure it works. It's doing what it wants to, or we want it to do. And then again, it's going to look a lot like this, where I'm going to take one step at a time. So step 1, and then I'm just going to take a positive delta and negative delta. We will return maybe something a little bit different. Let me think about this. So I'm running until, and so I definitely want the time, and I want the last number. So self.location -1. How about that? All right, so let's enter. All right, so I'm gonna get down here, maybe some, I don't need these anymore. X. I'm gonna do r dot, what was it called? 0 check, no, run 0. Run _0. I didn't like that at all. Oh, I gotta put a plus or minus, right? So I gotta tell it the positive and negative delta. So 5 and -5. Oops. It's running forever. I think it's running forever. Got a little star there. So 5 and -5. It should not run forever. So let me check this thing out. Well, not check 0. So what is check 0 doing? Check 0 is checking the last number to see if it's less than 0. All right, so let me kill this. Interrupt. R dot. Oh, it ran forever. Yes, it did. So it never got to 0, huh? Oh, it's negative something. Oh. So it did get to 0, and it just kept running, and there is a reason why it did that, because check 0 obviously didn't work. So while not, so run 0. That's making sense here. So run 0 self, positive, negative, and we definitely got some negative numbers there. While not self dot check 0. I don't know why that didn't stop there. All right, so we're going to and I want to print r.check. Print. Oh, did I not return it? Good grief. That's a return, knucklehead. I called it, but I didn't return it. Goodness. All right, that's what it is. It has to be that. So shift enter, print, blah, 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 and false. Okay, so it is returning me something now. Now, run that sucker. All right, finally. So we got 118 is the time, and 90 is the number. Oh, 90 is the maximum that it was at. And why is that? Because I put in 10 instead of 100. Okay. Shift enter. Shift enter, shift enter. Okay, so we're sitting there now. I'm going to check 0, and then I'm going to run it 400. So now what I can do is get how long I can play, how many games that I can play that has that probability of winning, given that I'm going to either gain $5 or I'm going to lose $5. So that's the idea behind that one. What happens if I want to do a run until, and say it like a 140 like we did in the example, and then 5 and -5. Shift enter. All right, so that one, and then I can print R so we can see what happened. So why did that one stop? Oh, it must be a run until. So another coding issue here. So stop value self dot location is greater than or equal to. Shift enter, shift enter, shift enter. And let's run until. All right, so it took us 200 times to get to 0. It took us 119 times to get to 140, and we can print it off and we can see all of the walks just to make sure. So it got down and then finally got to 145. Why would it not stop at 140 is the question. 140. And then, well, oh, yeah, take the equal sign out. Okay, let's try it one more time. Oh, goodness gracious sakes alive. So this one, so I need to get one where it actually gets to 40. So it did go to 140 that time. All right, and that makes more sense. Okay, sometimes you're going to just have to mess around with this. I mean, unless you are very careful about how you do this, you're going to have to just work through it and make sure that it makes sense. All right, that's all I got for this lesson. We will, the very last thing that we'll do is we will create one more method in here that's going to visualize what happens on these things. So that's the purpose of the next one. All right.